So today I kind of wanted to walk through how I carve a turkey. And basically I always carve my turkeys in advance. And the reason why I do that on a meal is it gives me time to do all my side dishes, just frees up a little bit of that last minute anxiety of trying to get everything ready at once. Also, carving a turkey tableside is not a real easy procedure. So this way it's all carved and ready to go, and the way I do it, it actually looks like a whole bird, so it's a really nice presentation when your platter hits the table. So I'm going to kind of walk through how I do it, and we'll get cutting on this bird. So on the turkey, all I've done is taken it out of the oven, and I've taken the liquid off, which is behind it, that I'll make my gravy out of. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a couple pieces off this bird, and then I'll kind of show you a way to break them down. So the very first two pieces I'm going to take off, flip this around so you can see a little better, are the two breasts, and we're going to end up cutting those last, but we take them off first. So we're coming right down the keel bone and out in front of the wishbone. Just backwards so you can hopefully see. And then that whole breast piece, when you pull it away from the bird, should pull right off. And there's your first turkey breast. We're going to do that on the other side as well. So once you've pulled both of your turkey breasts off, just scoot them aside. Part of the reason why we're doing those last is because they're really, really hot and they're kind of hard to carve when they're burning your hands. So those will get scooted aside, and we'll move on to some of the dark meat. So at this point, we're going to actually start some of our presentation on our platter. I use just a round or oval platter. And like I was saying in the beginning, I want this to kind of look like a turkey once it's on the platter. So before I do anything else, I'm going to come in and cut through the first two wing joints. I'm also going to come in here on the front and remove my wishbone. Not necessary, but kind of looks nice on the platter. And then for my back two legs, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my knife on the inside up, leaving basically just a little bit of meat, mostly for presentation once again, and the rest of that meat will be put into the dark meat section. So here's our base for our platter. What we ended up with is just the top half of both of our drumsticks and our two wing tips. And then what we're going to do from here is pull our thighs and some of our dark meat and start rebuilding our bird. So just like our breast meat, we're going to remove our thighs next. And as you can see what I'm doing, I'm also not bringing the whole bird out of the pan, where you end up with a bigger, greasier mess on your board. So this way you can bring pieces out. Your thighs, when you come off your keel bone, will drop right into the hip. And find that bone in there, cut around it, it'll free up your whole thigh and the rest of that leg. So there's one on each side, of course. We'll get them both up here and then move on to cutting those up. So here are your two thighs. They come out and there's basically bones in them because they have legs. But all you need to do is there's a seam, and if you want to remove the skin, you just take your knife and you can scrape it off. It helps you see that seam a little better from where the leg was. And then you can come right down underneath there. And through that leg joint. And then down the bone. And that bone, especially if on the dark meat being on the bottom, will slide right out. You're done with that. With my leg meat, all I'm going to do is slice it 2 or 3 times so there's nice big pieces. Any of these little bones out of the legs you can try to get out. Okay, so once I've got that all put together, this becomes the base part of the back end of my presentation on my bird. So take all those slices, my knife, put a straight pile down where the dark meat would be on the bird. Okay, so moving on to the presentation part, all of that of our sliced thigh meat got piled up next to our drumsticks. And to fill the rest of the front half of the turkey, we're going to go through and kind of pick through the wings and the tenderloins, and I'll kind of show you how to do that, and then we'll carve our breasts. Okay, so on our wings, they're going to be pretty much all that's left in your pan, and they're going to be that second joint that you didn't put up on your tray for presentation. And these are actually more hand-picked than they are carved. But if you go through, there's one muscle underneath the chest cavity. You just kind of go through and get all that extra front chunks of meat. And with these, you know, you just pull the meat out of them, and we'll put them on our front half of our presentation. So we got the rest of the wing meat and just some stuff we kind of picked off the carcass down on the front half of our bird, which is primarily going to be the extra white meat on the bird. And then the rest of that is going to come from the breast, which we're going to cut up next. On a turkey breast, there's actually two muscles that are part of the breast, and if you flip them over, on the inside there is a tenderloin muscle. And if you pull this out first, it'll make your slices less crumbly, so we'll pull this one out, slice that up separate, and then move on to these guys. After we've sliced that tenderloin portion, it goes up on the front half of our bird with the rest of the white meat, and then we move on to our breasts. And what I'm doing on the breast is, depending on how thick you like your slices, but I'm trying to keep the skin on. That's just kind of for the presentation purpose, or if people want to eat that, that's cool too. And then I'm just working small end to the large end. And I usually slice at a little bit of an angle across the grain just slightly, which keeps your slice and your whole breast together. And I'll work my way all the way down to the other end. Once you have both sides of your breast sliced, you take your whole hand and your knife, run that whole section of your turkey breast out onto your bird, and carefully slide it off. I have to readjust a couple of these. There we go. And then come back and get the other one. And we're doing the same thing. So this is what it looks like when it's all done. You can see it still resembles a turkey. Its wingtips and legs, and your meat separated by dark and light, so whoever you're feeding has the ability to get what they want. And it looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now, while the rest of my stuff is getting ready, is I'll put about a quarter cup of the chicken broth over the top of the white meat, just so it doesn't dry out. And I'll cover the whole thing with foil. Then I'll go back in the oven on real low heat, 175 degrees, just enough to keep it warm. For the next half an hour or so while I'm putting everything else together. So, anyway, that's our final product. Hope it helps. As always, thanks for watching. Have a good one.